it's Friday, and that means it's time for the Bell Breakdown. Ah, there it is. Film critic Josh Bell joins us today, and we're talking about two very different movies. So
Yes.
1917, which I watched the trailer, and it looks amazing. And then Underwater, which I really want your take on because I couldn't tell what the movie was about based on the trailer.
Slightly less amazing
Okay.
than 1917, but yeah, Underwater it's sea monsters. You've got a crew at an undersea drilling outpost. Kristen Stewart is the star, and we've got a decent ensemble cast: Vincent Cassel, Jessica Henwick, who people might know from the Netflix Marvel shows. And something goes very wrong, and at first they think it's an earthquake, but no, it's monsters.
It's kind of based in the future, I assume, considering...
I mean, vaguely, yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a thing that we don't have as far as that drilling apparatus, but
Right.
it's not super sci-fi necessarily. Like, really, there's the bare minimum of setup. Within maybe 3 minutes of this movie starting, everything is going wrong, people are running, water is flooding in, and it really doesn't let up through the whole movie. So, I mean, the plot barely exists. It's really just an excuse for characters to kind of run and yell, and we see these crazy monsters eventually. I mean, it takes a little time for them to emerge. And they look kind of cool. There's some okay suspense. The characters, again, are barely characters. TJ Miller provides a bit of comic relief, but he's a fairly minor presence. And Kristen Stewart seems to be kind of coasting through this. I think she put more effort into the Charlie's Angels movie from earlier this year. So if you like monster movies and you don't mind that every single thing about it is predictable and that a lot of the action it's a bit murky. They have to go out onto the seafloor and there's dirt everywhere, and it's scary for the characters because they can't see, but we also can't see, so that's a little rough.
I love your honesty.
You could tune it in. It'll end up on streaming or cable or something. And if you like this kind of movie, maybe give it a chance there, but it's not something to rush out to theaters for.
Well, then let's get to the hot movie of the year, I would say. 1917. A lot of people are really excited about this movie. And I know Sam Mendes, the director, he also did Skyfall. So that movie was huge in and of itself as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you thought and the way this movie was shot, because I was reading how different that was.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gimmick here, is that it's shot to look like it's a single take. It wasn't really. I mean, the editing is very seamless, but it looks as if the entire movie is a single shot as we follow these two soldiers during World War I. They're tasked with delivering this important message behind enemy lines in order to stop this massacre of troops and change their mission. And so they have to get these orders across no man's land, and it's intense and scary, but in a way this movie is set up almost more like a horror movie. It's really just about the kind of keeping you in the moment of the action of it and the danger that these characters in. There's not a lot of character development. There's not a lot of structure to the story because it's this real-time thing. You can't cut away to anything. There's not really much downtime. It is an amazing technical achievement, the way that they did this, and I found it almost distracting because you're watching the movie just thinking about, wow, they had to place these props and how was everything set up so that the camera just can keep moving like this. It's almost like watching a stunt show if you go to an amusement park. And I think in that way it's not as emotionally engaging as we might want. It's been compared to Saving Private Ryan. I think there's a lot more emotion and a lot more character stuff to grab onto in a movie like that versus this. But if you go see it on a big screen, the opposite of Underwater, don't wait for home. If you want to see this movie, go to the theater, see it on the biggest screen possible, because that's what this movie, that's what it really has going for it. It is a big awards contender. It just won the Golden Globe for Best Picture Drama. I definitely don't think it's one of the best movies of 2019, but it is an experience probably worth having in the theater.
So you're not convinced that it might take an Oscar?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said I don't think it's one of the best movies, but the Golden Globes have generally, they're a pretty good predictor, and it's been building up a lot of awards momentum. Sam Mendes also won Best Director, so I think it definitely has a shot, and war movies are big at the Oscars. So I think it wasn't my personal favorite, but for people who think it looks like something they want to see, I think they'll like it.
Can we talk about the cast really fast? Because when I was watching it, maybe it was just the trailer I watched, I didn't see anyone that I knew or a familiar face.
Yeah, I think the idea is the main characters are played by George McKay and Dean Charles Chapman, who are not well-known actors, and I think the idea is to give you that everyman feel, which in part makes them less easier to latch onto. There are a bunch of big stars in tiny parts in this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch, Colin Firth, Mark Strong, they all show up for like a minute and are almost more distracting, but it's really these unknown actors who carry the movie, and they're good, but I think the characters just don't have that much meat to them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was very informative. All right, stick with us. 13 Action News will be right back.